All right, welcome everyone. So today we are going to be talking about, we are going to be completing our AutoCAD class today. We are going to be using we are going to be working with our reusable content, creating our drawing template, working with our dimensions, very important, and then arching our design. This shouldn't take less than, but because we are explaining, we can, and then we have to also, yes, correct. So let's go ahead, and we're starting with the first one on the list, which is, let's start with the plotting your design and then creating design templates. I'll go into my AutoCAD. Like I said, I emphasized something the other time. We were able to capture that on the video. So I told you something about object snap override. Do you remember I said something on that?
Yeah.
Yes. I said if we have different objects on the workspace, most of the time a professional, even you are not even advised to have all these things. I told you, if you have all these things checked, they will create nuisance in your design. Like they will create nuisance. You are trying to use a line command and you have different lines that have already been here, you have different circles that are already here, you have different arcs that are moving around this section, and then you are trying to create a line command. Immediately you are touching something, immediately you have all these different dots that is being dropped. Are you with me? So we are trying to pick up some point. It will always give you some issues sometimes.
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to start a line at this end point, I'm not even trying to use this endpoint of this line. I'm just trying to click somewhere near. But the object snap that is showing there will automatically help me to snap to that end. It's like magnet. You can't do something else. It's to pick up that point by default. So you can't have all these object snap checked. The professional way is just have the basic ones checked. And I think the basic one is not more than just this section that we have here. Right? These 4 section that we have here. So when I want to use any of them again, I want to get the midpoint of this line that I have here. I can use different methods. How do I do that? Whenever I have the command that I want to work on, if I want to create a circle, I can always hold on my control key. That's the first thing. When I hold on my control key and then I right click, it opens up this section for me. Right? If I escape, let me just right click by default. Can you see what it's showing me? When I right click by default, depending on the command that you have, it is showing you different options to create circle. Can you see that? The same thing if you have a fillet on. When we have a fillet on, we have different method of creating fillet. I will right click and then you always see these options here, right?
Yes.
But unlike just right click, when you hold on control, you have access to what? Object snap override. Can you see them here? They are the ones we have here. So I go to my line command. I'm trying to create a line at the midpoint of this line. I go to escape. I go to my line command, and then I go to object snap override. I can do what? Instead of selecting midpoint here or midpoint, I just go to what? Mid between 2 points. It can be for my circle, it can be for any design that I have, but I want the midpoint of these 2 points that I'm about to specify. AutoCAD will tell me specify the first point. I can use the quadrant of this top here. If I need the quadrant as well, I'll go to what? Quadrant. I'll use the quadrant here. The second point again, I'll use my object snap override. Use the second quadrant here, and then to pick that point for me. Can you see that it picks up that point directly for me? Did I do magic, or do we understand what I've just been able to do? Nobody is listening.
Yeah, we're here.
All right. All right. Cool. So that's object snap override. It's very important. We have loads of them on this section, so you export them one after the other. They are the same thing that we have on object snap, but just making things easy for you. We have other options that you can always explore here, please, on your own time. These are 3D if you are doing, or if you are on 3D workspace. So that's that about that. Let's move to the next one, which is what the grips. I said something around the grips as well. I said depending on the object that you have on your workspace, we have grips around that object, and you just placing your mouse around that grip. First, you have access to the temporary dimension. Can you see that temporary dimension that shows up, showing me the angle of that line and showing me the length of that line? Are you with me?
Yeah.
I have not clicked yet. I just placed my mouse on it. I just placed my mouse on that section, and then it's showing me that. When I now click, what happens? I have access to change the length of that. Line. I can type the length in. If I want 20, I can actually change the length if I want to do that. Are you with me? But that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to right click and see these other options that I have. I can move, I can copy, I can scale, I can rotate. Just the normal rotate command that we have on our AutoCAD is still the same way we rotate here. But instead of you trying to go to your modify command to go and look for rotate here, you can just do that from doing what? Right clicking and then using that node point called the vertex on each of the objects. Are you with me? For all the objects, you can do that. You can do all this adjustment on them. I can decide to scale this guy and then specify a scale point, and then I can decide to scale it up or down if that's what I want to achieve. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes, after that we went on to talk about the template. Now talking about the drawing template. We said there are different templates that come with AutoCAD by default. By default, there are different templates that come with AutoCAD. And how do we get to know that? Under Start, when we go to New, under New here, when I go to Browse Templates, you can see this section here, Select Templates. It's asking me to select templates. We have worked with AutoCAD, we have worked with this. Most of the design I've been working on is from AutoCAD. That's AutoCAD template. We have AutoCAD ISO. When you say ISO means isometric, right? Isometric. And then we have the 3D workspace as well. Are you with me? So we have all these different templates, and even apart from the design template themselves, we now have another one called the template file for plotting your design. It is called the layout template. So if I click on one of them, the layout template, it is where you plot your design from. Are you with me? Let me click on the first one here, the architecture. Let's use the architecture here. Not the architecture here. Metric architecture. Can you see MArc? Can you see MArc? The IArc means inches architecture. Are you with me? The second one is what? Metric architecture. When I click on MArc, I click on open. What happens? It's not taking me to the model workspace. Automatically, it takes me directly to where? The layout workspace. We have two workspace on our design for AutoCAD. The model workspace is where we create our designs from. The layout workspace is where we get our designs ready for print. Are you with me? This is AutoCAD standard of coming out with a design. That means you need to enter all these details, which are very much adjustable and editable rather. So we have this template here. You can decide to use this directly, but sometimes you have created your designs already. You have a design already that you have been working on. You have created a lot of designs here, so you don't actually have to move the design or do anything. Let me click on this. You already have a design you are working on. All you are just trying to do is to plot this design. Let's use the other one. Let's use this other design that I have here. Let's use this guy here. So we have designs that we have been creating, we have created here. We just want this, we are trying to print out the design, that we want to use this template that we have on this other one here. How do we do that? Then we spoke about creating blocks. Blocks are symbols that are used to depict an object. For example, we have icons that we use to depict a door for architecture. There are icons that we use to depict switch for an electrical engineer. There are icons that we use to depict concrete slab for a civil engineer, for a structural person. There are different icons that we use in these various disciplines to depict different what should I call them? Objects on AutoCAD. So there are different icons that we use to depict all these things. And these icons, they are usually created as a block. And there are two methods of creating block, or should I say there are two types of block. Do you remember those two types?
Yeah.
The first one is what?
Dynamic.
The second one is the non-dynamic block. The dynamic block, they are, like the name implies, means that they have access to create changes to them. You can make changes to them. Sometimes it can be very limited. You understand? Sometimes it can be very limited. But you can still make changes to a dynamic block. But a non-dynamic block cannot be changed. Right?
Yeah.
So even as we have both dynamic and non-dynamic block, we have user defined. That means you can actually create a block yourself, apart from the one that AutoCAD has created for you. Are you with me? You can create a block yourself apart from what AutoCAD has created for you. If I wanted to create a block for myself, that I'm going to be reusing in my design. So this object is representing my railing in this design. Are you with me? I'll just cover half of it. Escape. Let me cover just half of it. And then I'll go and remove the excesses that I have. Please go off. Alright. There's the point here. So this is what I want. I go to what? Just go to C to copy. I pick a point anywhere. Just take this guy. Hey, sorry, CO. Select this guy. I don't want this guy, and I want to remove the SSs that I have here. Also remove this guy. Now I want to copy. Alright, CO for copy. I pick this guy and then take it away from here. I don't need this hack that I have here. This icon that I have here, I want it to represent my railing, right? I want it to represent my railing. I can create this as a block, right? Let's say this is the object we are trying to create as a block. How do we do that? There are two methods of creating as a block. We have the first one using the create method, and then we have the other one called the what? The write block. When you write an object on the workspace as a block, that means you are saving a custom block that is going to be reusable over any project that you have working on AutoCAD, right? So if I go to create block, it will bring out the dialog box for me. I can title this my block as what? Railing. Let me just call it railing. And then from here we have access to specify our base point. If I leave all these things on specify on screen, I can leave them there. It will take me, when I click on OK, it will just open for me to start specifying them on screen. But I don't want to do that. I want to actually do the other way. I want to pick a point immediately. I want to set the base point. What's the base point of this object? I want to use this corner point as the base point. After using that as my base point, I have the next one called the object. On my object here, I want to uncheck this section as well. I want to go to select the object. That means I want to select the entire object that I'm trying to convert into a block. And then AutoCAD will now go and do its own math and tell you that all these objects that you have selected are made up of line and arcs of how many objects. For this one that we have here is currently what? 20 objects. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to what? Convert them into what? Block. The next one that I have there is to set the property, the behavior. Now I can tell AutoCAD that this block that I'm creating, I want you, when they use the scale command on it, it should scale uniformly. When I click on allow explode, that means if you use your explode command that is a modifier here, this explode command, when you use explode command on an object that is grouped, it will scatter it up and then leave it back, return it back to its normal arc and line state, right? But if you uncheck this allow explosion, you can explode from now to tomorrow and next year. You will not get to what? Explode this object. Why? Because this block has been set to what? Non-dynamic block. You don't want to make any changes to this block. You don't want anybody to be able to make any changes to this block, right? But me, I want mine to be what? Allow exploding and also scale what? Uniformly. And then placing my design here, I want to go under what measurement? I go to what? Inches. I go to millimeters. It was on inches before. I click on millimeters. And then if you have, do you have a description to talk about your, you can type warehouse reading. If you have a description that you want to type in, or just a description of warehouse reading, right? This is my description for my object, and I click on what? Okay. What happens? Can you see that object scale reduces?
Yes.
because before it was on inches, and the measuring scale that I set it on is now millimeters, right? And you know the measurement has to affect the what? The object. So it had to scale it down to the right millimeter scale for that measurement that we have for inches. Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So now that we have our object created as a block, this object can be used around our project. Can you see it is currently showing here, just like every other one that we have here. They are what? Project based. Can you see that? They are project based. This guy was not showing on the main block that we have for this design before. Why? All these ones, do you see them before? They were not on our design before because they are what? Project based. Right? These are project based really. But now I want to write a particular block as a general block for my system. How do I do that? We use the other method called the what? Write block. Where did you find out from? Definitely not from this section. I told you after creating a block you can always edit, right? When you click on edit, it will ask you, on this project we have all this block. Can you see that? We have all this block. Is it showing me all the other block that we've worked on before on the other from the previous section? Is it showing us all the block here? No. Is it showing us?
No.
It's only showing us the blocks that are just on this project. So now, what block am I trying to work on? I'm trying to work on this railing. I click on what? OK. And then it opens up that railing for me. If I have other adjustments that I want to do for my railing, I can do that from here. Right? I can decide to select this whole railing stuff. It is supposed to be aligned to. I can go to this line and then decide to what? Do my rotation and then try to rotate this object just from this end here. And then place it even vertical, right? That's what I want. And then I want to select this same guy. This same guy with this guy. And I want to what? Move it forward. Escape. M for move. I want to move it to this corner point here. Yeah. Not perfect. So I go to M command, enter. I want to move. I need to be seeing my intersection. Now my intersection is not showing. I can use my object snap override. Intersection is what I'm looking for. And then immediately I see that intersection, you see that green dot. Can you see that green dot showing on the list? Yes. So I need to be on my auto mode for sure. So green dot is not showing, then I can click. Are you with me? Was I able to move the object? I didn't move the object. Sorry. I go over it again. Select this guy. M to move. I select my object from the base point. What I want is to align here, but the object snap for insertion is not showing. Intersection is not showing rather. Oh, that's the problem. Ctrl Z. I just want it to be a straight railing, you understand? That's just all I'm trying to do. So I go to M for move, enter, move this guy, and use this object snap that is here. Can you see that? But I want it to be on this intersection point. So I can go to my first, I want to track for this endpoint to make sure that it's on this straight line with you. Apart from that, can you see my object snap? See how they are disturbing me? You have your endpoint, everything is tracking. I can remove these guys. Endpoint or all. I just want my intersection, that's all. So now I want to track from this endpoint. And I want to track from this what? Intersection point here. Auto mode, sorry. So intersection point again. There's that line. Okay. Voila. Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. So we are good to go now. I think it's now well aligned now. So that's that about that. Let's say I don't want this other end as well. I just want it to be a straight railing so that when I want to apply it, it's just a straight railing, right? This is what I want. I've made that's under edit block. And whenever you are done editing your block, you need to click on what? Save block. And then now click on this other guy to close it. Now this block has been edited, right? Now we see that under insert we have this block and then the other ones that we have. But what we are trying to do is we want to write a block. When we write a block, what happens to that block? It shows up for you on every other project that you want to use it on. So we can decide to write this entire thing that we have here as a block. This entire plan that we have here as a block. How do we write it as a block? I can go ahead and can give a W block, and that's the right block. Or if you are looking for the icon is under insert. Under insert we have write block. We have two methods of creating block. We can create, we can write. When we write a block, it will ask us the same question exactly not in the first place. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the object. Base point, I'll go and select. Where do I set it as my base point? I want this corner to be my base point. Where do I want? What is your object? This is the entire object. Then I click on enter key on my keyboard to get back into the design. Now you can see this time it's asking me for a destination. That means you are having a file directory saved on your own system. And I can call this warehouse. Warehouse. Right? And I click on save on my keyboard. When I'm done, I want to set the measurement. It's currently set at inches. I'll turn it back to millimeters, which is going to change the scale of the drawing because of the dimension. Can we see what we now have now? This is what we have. And when I select it, you see that it's a hole at the moment, and then we have that dot at the corner. Now this is seen as a block. Now what happens? I'll go into my new design that I have here, another project that I have by the side here. I'll go into insert. When I go to insert, I go to recent block. And then you will notice that warehouse is showing here, but my railing is not showing here. What is happening? Do you get me?
Yeah.
Warehouse is showing here, but I created a railing before warehouse, right? And that railing was created using the create section. That means that railing is just project base, right? Which shows that this warehouse is global. If you want it on another project, you can always bring it in if I want it. If I want it here, all I need to do is select it and right click to select insert. It will ask me where do you want to place this guy, and then I can drop it on my workspace and I'm good to go. Are you with me?
Yeah.
That is that about blocks, using block and creating block. Alright, the next thing apart from blocks there is now Autodesk have created some blocks for you. Autodesk does not want you to suffer. They don't want you to suffer, so they have some blocks created for you. Under the home part, we have something called, not under the view rather. We have something called the tools palette. And then this tool palette that we have here, that was where I explained something about the software. We have for AutoCAD and other softwares. We have AutoCAD for AutoCAD specifically. We have for other products as well, but I'm talking about AutoCAD this time. AutoCAD has full AutoCAD software. We call it AutoCAD Specialized Toolset. So for this AutoCAD, if you buy 2 sets of AutoCAD Specialized Toolset, you have 3 seats that you can share with 3 different professionals, right? It can be architect, it can be engineer, it can be a surveyor, right? When you share this license with them, they have access to the full suite of AutoCAD. That means that surveyor that you shared AutoCAD with is going to have access to both architecture, engineering, and construction. So it's from that person's profile. The person as an engineer, immediately you assign license to the surveyor. On his account, he has choice to make. He can decide to install the full AutoCAD toolset or install a software that is custom based for his industry. For an architect, you see AutoCAD for architecture. For an electrical engineer, you see AutoCAD for electrical. For civil, you see AutoCAD for what? Civil. Yes, I think so. You see AutoCAD for civil, right? So we have likes of there's AutoCAD for mechanical as well. We have AutoCAD for mechanical as well. So these are different. Then if I decide to install, I'm not installing the full AutoCAD. The surveyor or electrical engineer now decides that I'm not installing the full AutoCAD. I'm installing AutoCAD for electrical. Then everything that we have here, you'll be surprised that what you have on your home tab and what you'll be seeing on your tools palette is only customized for the mechanical engineer. You can't see anything related to architecture there. That means whenever you're going to be having any tab, can you see on my tab I'm having kitchen? If it's related to mechanical, good. But if it's not related to mechanical, you won't even see it on the list that I have here. Are you with me? So if I'm doing more of architecture, everything that I'm talking about tools will be customized to what? For my architectural field. But as a professional, even when you install a standard AutoCAD specialized software, the full software, I can actually customize my own workspace myself. And I do that using the view section, using my tool palette. Under my tool palette, I have all these tools that have been created. Where are these tools created from? I can delete them. I can undo them. I can remove the panel. I can decide to close them. These are different palettes that are added here. How were they added? That's where we have the second part called the what? Dynamic Design Center. This design center is going back to your file directory from where you installed AutoCAD from. Are you with me? So I'm going back to my C drive. Can you see I'm going back to this PC? That's the first place I'm starting from. Under this PC, I go to my local disk drive. If you have a system that is partitioned, that you have different.
Are you using ThinkPad?
Am I using ThinkPad?
Yeah.
No. I'm using HP.
Oh,
I'm using HP, but I have other hard drives connected. I have external hard drive connected. That's why I have this here. Yes. So I'm using HP. So my software, I have only one partition, which is for my C drive, right? So if you have other partitions, for example, you can have 3 partitions that you have local disk C, local disk E, local disk F. And you know that it's under F that you installed your software on. Don't even bother to go to C, just go under your what? Partition. So me, I'm going to C because that is the partition I'm concerned with, that my software is installed. I'm very sure that that's where it's on. And when I go into my drive C, what am I looking for? I'm looking for something called the program files. Sometimes it can be hidden. There is a way you can set it to on hide, but most of the time you should have your program file, right? It's the other one you will not see. When I have all my program files, when I go to my program files, I try to locate the next part. Immediately I enter my program files, I want to locate something, my product, which is what? Autodesk. It's Autodesk I'm concerned about. After selecting Autodesk, if all the Autodesk software you have installed on that drive will show up here. For example, I have my Revit 2019 installed here, Revit 2020 installed, right? And all these software have their content library that I work with. But I'm concerned with I even had Advanced Steel here. Advanced Steel is installed on this system. But I'm going to my AutoCAD 2022, which is what I'm trying to work on. When I enter into the software, now all the files that I have here are just for AutoCAD. What I'm concerned with is what's called samples. Can you see sample here? When I enter my sample, that is where I'm getting to see my files. What I need to go to was my English ENUS, and then you can see my design center, right? And you can see dynamic blocks, right? Let me go into my design center directly. And then under the design center, I have all this section. Right? You see pipe for pipe and fitting. If I'm doing pipe and fitting, I have that here. If I'm doing hydraulics, I have that here. If I have a mechanical engineer that is doing just HVAC, heating and cooling, ventilation, conditioning, this is what it needs. Immediately selects this, is getting ready. Are you with me? We have an electrical interface as well, right? Are you with me? All these things you can see here. When I enter my dynamic here, you can see that all these things are the ones showing here. Basic electronics, fastener, metrics. But just know that we have the metric scale and the US scale here. So we have the HVAC, we have everything here, for example. So if I want the plant, or if I wanted the pipe fitting for mechanical, all I need to do is click on the plus sign that I have there, go to the blocks. Can you see the blocks that I have here? A mechanical engineer understands what I have here and he knows how to apply them, right? If this is what I needed, all I need to do what? Click on one of them. If this is what I needed, the cross flanged, I can click on this and drag to my workspace. Are you with me? Then I've placed that object on my workspace. Can you see that on my workspace already?
Yeah.
Yes. But instead of going and selecting one after the other, I can actually right click on these blocks and then go to what? Create two palette. Are you with me? When I go to what? Create two palette, what happens? AutoCAD will automatically go to the background and generate a palette for you on your what? Tools palette. Can you see now we now have a section for what? Pipe fittings.
Yes.
So if I didn't want this fitting in the first place, I'll right click and click on what? Delete. Are you with me? So that's how you locate your file from this different section. And there is a lot here. Like I said, I can't explain everything. I will only show you that this is it. Whenever you want to use something, you know where to go to. If it's a dynamic block that you are looking for your civil engineer for metric, you also have the blocks that you can use for that. We have different things. If I don't understand everything that is here, you should understand that this road intersection and everything. You can decide to place one on the workspace if that's what you want, or you can decide to even bring everything to generate a block for you from there. Are you with me? So we have different things that you can bring in as on this project, but what I'm concerned with is usually on the design center. On the design center, you bring your mechanical, your electrical, your plumbing, your civil, your basic electronics, right? That's what we want. And immediately I'm ready. If I'm seeing exactly what I need, I'll go to select the blocks, right click and go to create two palettes for me, and then a two palette will be added to this section here called the HVAC. Whenever I'm done, I close this guy out. Now I can work exactly what I have here. This is just basically customizing my tools palette via my design center. So I'm more of an architectural person, so I leave my design tool set to mechanical. So if I need any design that I wanted here, I can select them, range oven, I can place this guy here. If I wanted sink or phone jack, I can place these things here. Like I said, all these blocks are icons that represent, they are icons, or should I call them symbols, that depict an object on the workspace. Immediately an electrical engineer or an architect is saying this, he knows what he's seeing on the screen. So that's that about creating or customizing your tools palette using your design center. Are we good to go?
Yeah.
All right. So the next part of that is, now having created your tool palette that you want to work with, we have different types of should I call it blocks. I said dynamic block and then the non-dynamic block. The non-dynamic block, they are the ones here. How do you know the dynamic block? Let me go into this section here. Is it on that draw? Let's go under architecture here. Can you see the ones that are showing something like charge on them? This charge icon on them. All these icons that I have here, they are known as the dynamic block, right? They are known as the dynamic block, the icon that I have here. Dynamic means you can adjust them, you can make some adjustment to them, right?
Yeah.
So when I click on this icon here, when I place it, I can actually make adjustment to the window, to the aluminum window, change the length, change the weight, change the stretch, whatever I want to stretch out of it, and then make sure that the adjustment is working, right? But I can't do that using these other ones that I have here. When I go, I can put my tree and then place my tree on my design here. This is also a dynamic block because I can also increase the size if I want to do that. But you can see under some tools here, they are just here. All you need to do is just to place in whatever station you want to put them, right? They are non-dynamic block. If they don't have this charge icon, they are known as non-dynamic blocks. So most of the time, non-dynamic blocks, you cannot make changes to them. Just leave them that way and use them wherever you want to use them. Is it making sense?
Yeah.
All right. So that's that about dynamic block and non-dynamic block. Now we are going to talk about templates. We are going to talk about drawing template. So now I told you earlier on start here that we have templates here. Or have we spoken about that already? We have all these templates here. Like I said, we have the metric for architecture. I'll click on this and click on OK. But this is not for design. This is talking about the plot. It's talking about the layout. We have a section called the layout section on AutoCAD, or layout workspace. When you go to your design, you try to create your design. We always have, for all our projects that we create on AutoCAD, AutoCAD will generate two layouts for you by default. Look at the drawing 13 that we have here. Or I can delete even this drawing 13 and go to just the last one, the last project that we have here. This one that we have here. Did we create these two layers? No. But they were created by default by AutoCAD. This layout section is where we are getting our design ready for what? Print. Right? This is when we are telling AutoCAD that, see, we are trying to put our design on paper. That is plotting. And there are different methods of going to activate this section. Right? We have the layout here already. If I want to increase the number of layouts, for this first layer that we have here, the layout one, I can decide to what? Enter into this design, zoom in into one of the objects on the workspace. Let's use this plan for example. I'll go to Z, enter, W, enter, which is for my window, so that I can create a window around my design. And then I click, and you can see this object around this workspace, right? I can double click outside. You can see that what I have here is exactly what I want to have shown on my paper. The next one that I have there is the full design again. I go ahead to double click into the workspace. I zoom only into the window. Right? I'll make sure that I'm on perfect view for my window. And then you can see that for the first layout and the second layout, we have different views. Right? This goes to show that on your design, you can have something as vast as whatever on your model workspace. But whenever you want to put on paper, you always want to put one section. You want to put another section on another paper. You can always have them on different plot layouts, right? Good to go. So the next thing that we have there, from creating layers, you can click on this plus icon to add more layers to it. I can click on one more time. Can you see a layout? A layout is being created for me again, and then I can go to what? Immediately that layout is being created. Now I can go ahead to what? Specify what I want to see on that same layout. If it's only my tree that I want to see there, I'll adjust to my tree alone, and then I double click outside. You see that I have tree here. I have the standard view here. Okay, I was changing the other design. Okay, I was changing the other design. I was supposed to be on this section and then go to my what?
Does this thing go to the layer automatically?
What?
Your drawing is on the main.
By default, your drawing is on the layer because there's nothing you cannot show. What you want to show on the layout is what you have on the model. If you don't have anything on the model, let me delete everything that we have so far. You know we have placed so many views already on the layout already. Can you see this? We have placed so many views already. Let me now go to my model and delete everything. Control A, it will select everything on your drawing, and I can click on delete on my keyboard. Or go to my erase tool. Since they are all selected, I'll go to my erase and they are gone. Now let's go to our layout. Is anything showing again? No, because you don't have anything on your workspace. The only thing that will show on your layout space is what you already have on your workspace. So the design that you've done.
So if I'm printing, or plotting, I have to go on the layout for me to print.
To print design out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we are talking about now. That means you must have designed something on the model space, right?
Yeah.
So now after designing on the model space, you go to your layout, and then you adjust to that drawing that you've worked on, and then you start exporting out as your print. We'll get there. We are going to export a drawing out for ourselves. So I'll go back to this by model here. I think I have to undo because I need those drawings that are deleted. So back here, and then I can go back to what I have here before. Can you see these sections here? Now, all these new tabs the layout that we created using this plus icon, there's another method to create layout again. You can also right click on one of the layouts and then go to what? New layout. Can you see that? It will also create a new layout for you to start what? Adjusting. But no, by default, immediately you click on create new layer, it won't take from any other design. It will go back to the default view of everything that you have on your workspace. It will want you to adjust to whatever you want to see, right? Then you adjust to whatever you want to see or what you want to have printed. That's what you adjust to here. And immediately you have it on view, all you need to do is what? Click out. Now I want to add another layout again using the third method, which is what? Layout wizard. When I go to layout wizard, this comes in a dialog box giving you in form of a step. It gives you in steps and even shows progress report. The first section that we have there is the begin. Begin is telling us to title our layout. My layout is titled what? Let's call it walkway view. Let's call it walkway rather. And I click on next. That's the name of that layout. The next thing that happens there is what's asking me to select the printer. And on this printer, am I trying to print my design out? No, I'm not trying to print out. What I'm trying to do is to what? Extract a PDF file. Extract the what? From DWG to PDF file. That's when this takes me back to the day one of our class. There are file types for every application that you work on. For your Microsoft Office, we have .doc. For your Excel file, we have .exl, right? For your Excel file. For our AutoCAD, it is known as what? DWG. This is for notes. DWG is for what? Drawing. On that same AutoCAD, we have what? DWT. DWT, which is what? For what? Template. Are you with me?
Yeah.
That's about that. We have what? DWG to what? To PDF. We also have other file formats like that on AutoCAD that we can extract to DGN and all. These are different file formats that, depending on your project, you know what to go for. Please, if you don't know all these terms that I mentioned, all these DG, please do your research and check. So we have the DWG to PDF. I'm using this option because that's what I want to do. I'm not trying to plot at the moment. We do have printer on this system actually. I have our printer here, but if you are in live class, you can actually print out so that you can see. But let's do DWG to PDF and I click on what? Next. Immediately I do that, what happens? It takes me to the next part, which is what? Select the paper size. Now, the biggest paper size that we have, we all know that is what? A what? Somebody should answer that question. The biggest paper size that we have for plotting our design is A0. We have A0, we have A1, we have A2, we have A3, we have A4, right? We even have A5. But as they increase from A0 to A whatever, let's just say A5, that's what I know. That's why I don't know A6, but I know A5. So if there's A6, I don't know, but I know from A0 to A5, right? So from A0 is the biggest, is the largest, while A5 is what? The smallest. So, and according to whatever we are having on our screen here, are you seeing me? Let's go to A4, which is what I want to use. Most of the time I don't pay attention on A4, but let's use A4. But we have the first option. When you go to A4, you can see that on our A4 here, we have two options. Where's our A4? We have ISO A4, we have all these different templates. Can you see all these ISO? We have Arcade, we have all these things. I always want to be on what? ISO. Right? I always want to be on ISO. So I have my ISO A4. Where's my ISO A4? Which is right here below here. But my ISO A4, I have two. Can you see the first ISO A4 and the second ISO A4? It's just telling us about the landscape and then the portrait. Right? Landscape and portrait. The first dimension that we have there, which is the 297, is the what? X. The second dimension that we have there is the Y. So we always want to make sure that we have any one of the lists if we are trying to make a landscape design or a portrait design, right? So I'm using the second one. That's the what? Paper size. I select that paper size and then I go to orientation. When I select that, it's asking me what drawing unit do you want to set this on. I click on what? Millimeters, and I click on what? Next. By default, because of the template that I've selected, it has shown me that what? This is what? Landscape. Because of the size that I've selected, I assume that this is landscape. But if you still know that, oh, sorry, is the portrait that I want, it will do the automatic setting by its own side here. You can select portrait if that's what you want. And then I'll go to next when I'm done. Do I want to do anything here? Title block or no? Do I have a title block that I've created? You know we created one before on the section that we didn't record. Can you see it showing here?
Yeah.
But I don't need that. I don't want to use any title block now. I'll go to none. I'll go to next. Define viewport. Now it's telling me that enter a viewport. Do you remember that that time as well we had to select single viewport? We have three viewport and all the likes the other time. But I'm using single viewport this time. I'm going to the next one again. I'm going to click on next. Pick a location. Choose a location to specify your viewport on your configuration on your drawing. So I can decide to what? Let's go ahead. Where's my viewport going to be starting from? That's what it's trying to confirm from me. I'm going to click on my viewport to start from here and then end here. Immediately I'm done with that, it gets to what? Finish. What happens when I click on finish? It plays my what viewport on this workspace. Are you with me? All this wahala is what we get when we click on plus here, right? When we click on plus and it had layer 3, this is added automatically. All we need to do is what? Adjust our viewport. If it's not the size we want to adjust our viewport. We click on one of the vertex, we adjust our viewport to the size that we need, right? So depending on whatever works for you, please always explore. Do you get me? I've shown those 3 methods, which I will even call like 2 methods, because the first method is plus, the second one is right clicking and clicking on this guy, and the second one is what? Layout, what is it called? Layout wizard. So that's that about that. That's that about what's working with layout. Now we want to talk about blocks. We have even explained blocks already, right? We spoke about the sorry. We spoke about the blocks that when you write a block and when you save a block. For example, for my plot design, sometimes I want to create my design here. After creating my plot, let me delete everything that we have here and leave just one. Go to my delete. Yes. Go to my delete. Yes. Delete this guy again. So there's something called the printout template. It is like a custom or a view for your design. I can decide to select this guy. This guy that we have here, this box. Immediately you are seeing this box, and then you are seeing the center dot at the center with this drop down icon. Know that this is your viewport. Can you see that this is your viewport? What do I mean by viewport? The viewport is what is going to show you. It is like a view window that shows what you have on your model workspace. That's just it. When I click on delete on my workspace, you can't see anything anymore. Can you see anything anymore? No. But deleting it is not the problem. You can always bring it back in. How? You just go to your command line and then type what? Viewport. And then you can see that it brings out viewport. When I click on enter, it brings out the dialog box for viewport. I can enter a single viewport or multiple viewport depending on what you need. Me, I don't need all these 4 equals. I don't need all these ones. All I need is a single viewport, which I need. When I click on single viewport, if you use all these multiple viewports, will it work? Yes, it should work. When I click on OK, and then I specify my first corner point and my second corner point, can you see that 2 viewports were created, right? I can decide to go into one, adjust the view to just the plan that I have, zoom window for this to make sure that I have just what I needed. Z enter, W enter, and then I create a window around my object, and that's exactly what we have on the screen. If you have something else that you want to display here, I click outside, go back into my model here, and then I adjust the view as well. Place my design here, and then I click outside. Any viewport you select will surely work, right? I delete one of them and then I adjust my viewport again back to normal, right? I return it back to normal, which is what my single viewport. Now I can decide to go back into my design and then place my design well, properly, right? If I want to see my design clearly, what do I need to do? All I need to double click into my design. While I'm able to zoom in inside the model workspace, I go to my grid. Can you see my grid here? I go to my grid, and this is my status bar here. I click on this icon, and then I'm not seeing that grid anymore. So I can place my design the best way that I want it. Go to my zoom window, adjust my view, make sure my object is being captured on the workspace, and then after that I click outside. Right. Now I said something about the viewport. Whenever the viewport is being added, can you see that we have a surrounding box around the viewport? Right? Can you see that? We have a surrounding box around the viewport.
Yes.
Most of the time, you don't want this box to come out of your print. Are you with me? You don't want this
My
box to...
battery is running low, guys.
It,
My internet.
so, let me...
Just
Alright, so you can try to join with your phone like you suggested, Engineer Evan. So what we have here is the viewport. But most of the time when you are plotting your design, you don't want to have this surrounding box around your object. You can see it can be a mess sometimes because you have your design, you still have this surrounding box showing. If you don't want to see this box, you can actually create a layer for it. Most of the time when it comes to creating your template. I can actually have it on by default to always have a template for my what? For my viewport. I'll call it VP template because I know that I will be turning it off later. Now my viewport that is currently on this workspace here is currently on layer 0, which is very good. What do I want to do to that layer? I want to turn it off. When I click on off here on this layer, on layers here, what happens to that section? It asks me to select the layer and then I select. Are you sure you want to turn off the current layer? I click on yes. What happens? It takes off that layer completely. But unfortunately for this our model here, there are still some other designs that are on the same layer with that layer 0. So I'll Ctrl Z. Which are this other layer? I'll Ctrl Z. Go into my model, select the layers. Okay, this is a block, right? This is a block. I've converted this guy into a block. So let's what can we do? We can explode because we need availability to explode. I'll select this guy, go to this guy, select this other guy that is here. These ones here, they are all on layer 0, right? Escape. Instead of even going to this section, all I need to do is what? Go to my layer work and then make sure I'm just on layer 0. What do I want to do to that layer? I want to exclude some other lines that are there. I need to be on my model. I need to be on my model. Do you get what I'm trying to do? We want to remove the viewport. If I don't want to stretch myself, let me just go to my layers, go to my increase layer. I call this what? Viewport layer. And then I click on what? Enter. Click on enter to create that viewport. All I need to do is close this guy up, go back to my layout, select this guy. Instead of being on my layer 0, I'll change it back to that layer that I've created, which is called the what? The VP layer. And immediately I do that, I want to turn it off. Select this guy and turn it off. What happens? It takes that line, that boundary box that we have, away from my model. I'm not done yet. I don't want this grid line as well, so I'll double click into that space, go to my model, I'll select what? Grid, and then double click outside again. Now I have just my model on the workspace. Is this making sense? Is this making sense? Are we making progress?
Yes.
Alright, cool. So what I want us to do now is to play around something called we have spoken about the template, we've spoken about the rest, right? But let's talk about the template for print. So most of the time on start here, we have under new, we have templates, we have this template that are for architecture. I'll use one for architecture here. I'll click on OK. This is a layout section. I don't want this on my design. I don't want this to be, I don't want to use this here. I have a project that is currently ongoing that I've been working on for over 2 weeks now. All I want to do is just to use this layout section that is here on my design. I can select everything that I have here on my layout and bring it into this section here. But what will make it easy is to what? Write this as a block. I'll write this as a block. You can see AutoCAD has created it for no name. You just need to change the details that I have here. I'll select everything that I have on this list and go to what? Write block. Write block. When I go to write block, I get to what? Create an object. It's asking me that I should specify the base point. Everybody knows that this corner here is the what? Is the base point. and then the total update that I want to create. What are the updates that I want on my workspace? I'll select everything completely, and I click on what, enter. What happens again? AutoCAD is asking you want to convert this update into what? Create into block, and then I get to what, save as well. I'll select, because we have created it already, I'll call it architecture plot. I call this ploy. What's the name of ploy? It's also a plot. So I'll call the architectural plot V2. This will work for version 2. I want it on the scale of 1 millimeters, and I click on what? OK. Immediately I've done that, all I need to do, I can even close the project off completely. Do you want to save changes, please? I don't want to save. I click on no. Now I want that layout just here. I'll just go to what? Insert. When I go to insert, I go to what? Open blocks for me. My recent block. It will open everything here on my workspace. You can see that the architectural ploy that I created earlier is here. But the new one that I just created, architectural plot, is still synchronizing. That's why I'm seeing that arrow that is rolling around. Can you see that? But now it's showing, right? When I click on this guy now and click on what? Insert. What happens to my design? It's asking me to what? Specify what? Insertion point. Most of the time, you want to have a rectangle that has been created already, so that I can place it here. You can place it at that end point. But I'll just use my visuals at this stage. Use my visuals to place this object here. Yes, now you can see it's of higher scale, right? How do I do that? Select everything that I have here and then go to my own objects. I want to what? Scale this guy. Using what point? I'm using what? This base point here. And then I want to make sure this is what I have. Just something that can be captured on my what? Workspace. If I have to increase it, it can always be done. Select this guy, move. I use this endpoint to move, and then I place into my design appropriately. Are we good to go? So instead of creating this all over again, I already bring it in as a block. All I need to do is what? Explode. And then if I have any settings I want to do on this section, I start creating these adjustments. Select them again. Start making what? Explode. Start making the adjustment you want to make. Designed by, I can enter my name. Right? I can enter my name. Are you with me? I can enter my name. You can do all these settings yourself. Please explore these sections yourself. So this is that about the layout. But like I said, for this viewport that I imported by default, there's a viewport that comes with it. For that, I copied everything under that layout and then placed here, converted into block and brought here. There's a viewport that comes with it. That viewport that comes with it is the one showing everything that I have here. Can you see this viewport here? It's showing everything on the workspace again. When I go ahead to select the viewport itself, because I've ungrouped, I've excluded, I'll click on delete. Can you see that part has gone off again? Because we have already created a viewport here by default. We have created a viewport here ourselves. So this is what we want to do. Working with templates and working with the usable content. So far we have been able to work with blocks. We have been able to work with, let me show you the progress here. We have been able to work with blocks, we have been able to work with design center, and then the tools palette. Creating blocks and working with templates, we have spoken on everything. And like I said, yes, on blocks again, let me put this in. I said you yourself, without using a default from Autodesk, you can actually create a template yourself. How do you go about that? When I go to new, or let me go to draw template and go to my normal default drawing template. When I enter into this workspace as an architect, I have placed in my what? I have placed in my design tools, my tools palette here. I also have, I know that as an architect, there is a template. There are things that I always need on my workspace. I need the VP. VP layer must be created for sure. I need to have a layer for my construction line that are not part of my drawing. I need to create layers for my doors, for my external reference, for these different beautiful trees and gardening, everything. I can create all those layers here. When I do that, we have one already created here. When I go to file, start, when I go to new, other templates, we created one the other time and you know it. We have it called what? Building project template. When I click on open, what happens? Even the limit that we specified for that template stayed. The two palette that we have on that template stayed. The layers that we created for that panel stayed. Do you remember them?
Yes.
So do you want me to go ahead to create the layers again for this other drawing, or you understand how it works?
To me, as long as you can do it.
You don't think. I don't want you to think. Let me go ahead. Let me just create two layers here. I'll go to layers properties, go to new layer. Let's create one layer for door, create another layer for gardening or greenery. What do you call it? Greenery, are we? I'll click on enter, and then I go to what? Close this section up. You can do all your line type adjustments if you want to do that, but I won't be capturing that on the recording. So after creating all those layers, you can see them here, right? So we have all these layers that have been created for this, because I know that this project, this template that I'm trying to create is for architectural designs, and I'll be needing these tools always. So I've created my custom tool set. I've adjusted my workspace just for architecture. And then what do I want to do? I want to save. I'll go to my application menu. Instead of saving as a drawing, I save as what? I'm not saving as a drawing this time. I'm saving as a what? A template, DWT. Do you remember? DWT file. When I click on this, AutoCAD will do something for me. It will show you that this is what you are trying to do. I say yes. It's trying to tell me to save in what? I want to save it on my desktop, exactly where we have other design files from before. I want to save it on my desktop. I want to call it what? Architectural template, right? Yes, this template is being saved. Immediately I click on save, it now brings out this English again. I didn't set my unit, so the unit by default is using feet and inches. You can see that I can use my measurement. I can actually select metrics here, and then I leave it on what? Save all layers as unreconciled, and I click on what? Okay. What happened? We have been able to create a template. That does not mean that if you want to work on your AutoCAD, you won't be able to work on your AutoCAD. Immediately I'm starting my drawing. Don't save. Immediately I go to my start from my menu here. Immediately I go to my browse template. I always have my AutoCAD to work it by default, but I know that this time I'm not even training anybody. This time I want to work on my own personal project. I go to start, I go to new, and then I get to select what? The building project template. Or what template did we create? The new template that we just added, which is what? We created a new template. Okay, this is it. Right? Is it this? This is the first one we created. Oh, the other one was created where? On the desktop. Don't forget. On the desktop, which is what? Architectural templates. Can you see that? I'll click on what? Open, because I changed the directory. Yes. So now that I've entered that same project that I created, the architectural template, how do we get to know? The layers that we created, are they still there? The two parts that we brought in the design, are they still there? Even the blocks you have created on that same design, are they there? The general blocks we always show, just forget that by default. The general blocks that we created earlier will be what we shown here. Good to go. So that's what I want to emphasize regarding this template before we leave the discussion on templates. So the plot drawing is also around what we are about to do. But before we do that, let's talk about this last section that we have here, which is what? Let's talk about arching, and let's talk about how you can edit your arch object. And we'll talk about dimensioning and call this class. We'll talk about plot as well and call this class a close.